Hi everyone, number one Marmaduke fan here. So I'm looking at Dragon Ball Super, a story by Akira Toriyama, of course, and art by Toyotaru. And this is actually my first time reading anything with art by Toyotaru. I heard of Toyotaru because of a Twitter controversy where he was accused of tracing an artwork of Captain America for a image of Goku for a Japanese poster. It was like some kind of like Goku versus some other kid kind of thing. And the artist who drew the Captain America image, I think it was Dexter Soy. I think he handled it well. He just said, I'm kind of weirded out by this, but I'm also kind of flattered because I grew up tracing Dragon Ball Z art, and now one of the official Dragon Ball Z artists is tracing my own work. So I feel like you shouldn't trace. I feel like it's a disrespect unless it's a clear homage to something. But on the other hand, like every great artist through history has traced at some point. If you don't think that the great artist you love hasn't traced at some point, they didn't get to be a famous artist. So this was kind of an interesting introduction to Toyotaru's art for me. And actually, I more want to talk about some of the stuff I learned about the artists and Akira Toriyama as a writer in some of the interviews behind the scenes stuff. More so than I want to try to like review Dragon Ball Super. Like the review of Dragon Ball Super is if you like Dragon Ball Z and have watched all of Dragon Ball Z, you couldn't get enough, you will like Dragon Ball Super, probably. If you're like me and you really respect Akira Toriyama, but you dipped out of Dragon Ball Z at some point, I think it dipped out like right after the Vegeta arc, I started getting bored. But there's going to be nothing in Dragon Ball Super to that will change your mind. Also, it's not a very good jumping on point. Like they will skip over arcs and skip over information that was in the movies. I kind of wished. I know that they kind of like released these out of order, but I kind of wish when they brought them over to America, they would have taken that opportunity to like reorder them in chronological order so you could actually get the whole story. Like there are like whole movie arcs that just are just skipped over that are just alluded to briefly in the comic. So that being said, I respect Akira Toriyama. I'm just not a big Dragon Ball Z guy. Plenty of other people have harped on that for way too long, so I'm not going to re-harp on all that. With that, I'm going to take a little look at Toyotaru's art and talk about it a little bit. So it just in his introduction, he kind of is very humble. He's sort of amazed at where he stands. I'll read it because I want you to hear it in his own words. It's been a year since I started work on Dragon Ball Super. The more I work on it, the more I realize how far away Toriyama Sensei is from where I stand right now. However, people say that being able to recognize someone else's strength is proof that you've improved too. In that sense, perhaps I can assume that I've gone from Hercule level to Yamcha level. And for those who aren't Dragon Ball Z types, those are two weak characters within the Dragon Ball Z universe. You may find some things in this manga that seem odd to you, but I truly appreciate you reading the series with an open mind, he writes in 2016. And what's kind of interesting is it seems like he's mostly done Dragon Ball Z related stuff in like V Jump. He did what did he do? Manga for the Dragon Ball Z anime's 2015 film, Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F, and now he's doing the manga adaptation of the Super anime. I don't know which came first, the manga or the anime. So what's interesting about this is this kind of reminds me of Don Rosa's lovely Scrooge McDuck, Donald Duck comics, which were all just like a love letter to Karl Barks. I kind of look at this as Toyotaru's love letter to Akira Toriyama, where in like the very first chapters, I was kind of thinking, this is a little stiff. There's not that much line weight to it. It's just boring old Dragon Ball. And then kind of gradually, I actually, even though I am not a big Dragon Ball Z guy, I eventually started getting into it and started really admiring what Toyotaru was adding compositionally. Where one of the things I've noticed, I think he's doing this because he's directly referencing Akira Toriyama, is lots of little panels where a whole lot of stuff is going on, and then zooming out to like a bigger panel. Things like a thing crashing, like a meteor crashing that in a Western comic would fill a whole page, will be in a panel as tiny as this with a million little details, and then it'll zoom out to this. And so the effect of that is it moves really quickly, and you can stuff a lot of details into just a few pages. Like it feels like a lot of things are going on in every page. And even though I'm going to stick by what I said, I don't think that he has as I think Akira Toriyama, because he wrote gag manga, had a cartoony style that he somehow adapted into the action style that then defined the genre for a generation, and is still affecting the entire genre of Shonen Jump manga. So Akira Toriyama's always had this sort of fun cartooniness to his style, even when it got sharper and the muscles got bigger and it became more and more about action. He always had that kind of root in simple, fun cartooniness. Toyotaro is successfully capturing the vibe of Akira Toriyama, but I think he needs a little bit more elegance, maybe just a little bit more ease or grace to his line work. But what I really admire about Toyotaro is how he is successfully continuing the legacy of someone that he grew up admiring. And that's just got to feel amazing. Not only growing up to do manga like the person you admired growing up, who inspired you growing up, but actually getting to work under the person who inspired you growing up. And this little scene, I just wanted to mention this whole scene. I hate Dragon Ball Z. I hate Dragon Ball Z so much. But this scene went viral on YouTube, and it's a Vegeta seeing his wife Bulma get struck aside by this god of chaos, and then he gets angry and he says, "How dare you hurt my Bulma?" And then he goes Super Saiyan 3, which is like the thing I think that's what he does. It's the thing he's never been able to do. He's never been able to surpass Goku all his life, and this has created this real inferiority complex in him. And the reason I think this scene went viral is it's really a poetic scene that almost no one that almost is. It's almost like Akira Toriyama writes poignant stuff by accident. Like he's mostly interested in guys beating each other up and silly gags, really really silly gags that are. He's a really good gag writer actually. But what's kind of poignant about this scene is that Vegeta is this character who was a homicidal maniac for a lot of his life, literally, murdered millions of people on alien planets. And then when he comes to Earth and he's humbled by Goku, it's sort of like this changes his whole world. It turns his whole world upside down. And gradually, over the course of all of these long battle arcs, Vegeta gradually becomes like this more focused, more humble, and actually a good father and a good husband. Maybe even a better father and a better husband than Goku is, even though Goku's kind of chipper and folksy and likes to go save the world. It's really Vegeta's character is really a lot about transformation, and I think this is. I like to watch Dragon Ball clips since I don't want to sit down and watch 100 episodes of them building up to a fight. But it's really poignant, and it's just weird that even though my critique of Dragon Ball Z is that it's it's just fighting, it's a lot of fighting without that much poignancy or that much weight or morality or depth to it. There will come across, really powerful moments like this, kind of almost by accident. I think that's what happens. That once in a while, Akira Toriyama really resonates with people. The action, it's Dragon Ball Z action. I thought it was kind of cool, and Vegeta was flying around, and you can follow through. So the other thing that Toyotaro does, I think, is he thinks about follow through. So if someone's winding up with their right hand, then the punch will be with the right hand, and then their kick will be with the left foot because they're spinning around backwards. So he actually thinks a bit. He talks about this in the interview too, about how he looks at Akira Toriyama's art, and then he also tries to come up with some of his own, original moves to make it fresh. And I think that definitely comes across. He's someone who thinks about action rather than just copy pasting Akira Toriyama panels into his work. This is the page I was talking about where they set up a plot, and then they just skip it without even an editorial box to see what happened, go watch Resurrection F. If you gave this to a kid, they'd have no clue what would happen. They'd just hear the characters talking about how the evil villain they didn't even get to see resurrected got defeated off panel. I thought this gag with this galactic dude was perfectly timed, so I won't spoil it. I'll just say that the thing that Toriyama does with gags is he sets it up, and then he does some exposition, and then he hits you with the punchline at the end. So in a group of three. So the first silly thing is the space cop, being a goofball and asking a silly question. And then the second silly thing is Bulma gets annoyed and she asks a question by accident, wasting one of her three precious questions. So they've come all the way to across the galaxy to meet this dude. She wastes her first question, then she asks her real question, and then at the end of it, she forgets, and then she asks another dumb question that she already knew the answer to. And she wasted her chance to get more information. It's a perfect gag, and I think that's probably one of the strengths of Dragon Ball Z is Toriyama's just a great gag writer. It's not just, oh, it's so silly. There has to be an ironic twist that actually makes it funny, so that anyone can understand it. This whole fight actually was the most interesting to me because it felt like Toriyama was kind of making fun of his own writing style, where they realized that this giant teddy bear guy is impervious to all attacks. And even like Piccolo and Vegeta, who are usually pretty smart and strategic, they think, well, the only way Goku's going to be able to beat him is to charge up a super all-out one-off attack. He'll have to use all his energy just to beat this one guy. And then Goku figures out, oh, wait a second. All I got to do is like drag him to the edge of the stage and judo flip him off so that I win. And then Piccolo and Vegeta feel kind of stupid because they didn't realize what a simple solution that would be. What's interesting about this has usually been, I think, the problem with Dragon Ball Z fights. Is it's all about charging up the super duper attack to the ultimate super duper power, and then you go all out and you try to blast them with one all super duper attack, and hopefully that kills them in one hit. And there's rarely like a good like strategic element to it. So I was actually kind of interested to see Toriyama do that, even if it was just for a gag in a fight. There's some interesting little bonus sections, and this is really what I wanted to focus on. Oh shoot, 11 minutes. Okay, let's go, gang. So this is, they call it Tori Toyo, so it's Toriyama and Toyotaru. I can't keep that straight, so anytime I see Tori, I'm going to say Toriyama. So after, this reveals so much good stuff about having an attitude towards your peers, towards your senseis, towards the public. This is just great stuff about having the right attitude as an artist and as a creator. So, they say thank you to the interviewer. So the interviewer points out that the plot of this is a fighting tournament. Why do we have a fighting tournament after like all the really intense arcs before this? So Toriyama, we made 2 very intense arcs in a row for Battle of the Gods and Resurrection F. We thought that this time a relatively simpler and brighter story would be better, and we started there. We sort of wanted to balance out what's been going on in the world. So it's kind of like the old, Diversity in Comics will talk about this. The X-Men have a baseball game after a really intense series of stories. Toyo, the Universe 6 arc is a fighting tournament, and it's been a long time since we had one of those. So they talk a little bit about, fighting tournaments in Dragon Ball. Tori laughs and says, I checked my own copies later, and every time I try to come up with something new, I'm just like, wow, just how much did I forget about these guys? And he laughs. That's how it is every single time. So if you're unaware of this, the fact that Toriyama forgets things about his own stories, it's like one of the greatest running gags in manga, that he'll forget entire characters and entire story arcs as he's just creating all the stuff, which is really ironic because then all these nerds know every little thing about Dragon Ball Z, and they spend all this time arguing over what, so-and-so's power level would be if they combined it with this attack. And Toriyama's probably just forgotten about all that stuff. It's really interesting. It's interesting because what it means is that Toriyama just generates all of these ideas without even planning it out that much. He just comes up with it. And later in the interview, you'll get another more of a vibe for his writing style. This is why I respect Toriyama. Even though it's kind of annoying that he forgets stuff, I respect the sheer creativity of this man. So they asked Toyotaru, from your perspective, what do you think makes Toriyama Sensei's work so appealing? Listen to this, gang. Listen to this. Toyo, I think words are too superficial to explain such things. Elements such as perfectly deformed characters, details in every aspect of his drawings, the amount of the world you can take in from a single panel, and so on, are especially amazing. I mentioned all of that, and I observed all of that in his art. So this isn't just Toyo talking. He has absorbed so much of Toriyama's art style into his own that he can actually capture that, obviously, within the art itself. But it really is difficult to put into words just how it makes me feel. Truthfully, this is just this inexplicable excitement that surges within me, all whoosh, every time I read his work. This is such a sweet story. Like the kid who grew up admiring Toriyama as a kid, now he gets to be like Toriyama's chosen artist to continue Toriyama's story. That's gotta feel amazing. The interviewer says, Dragon Ball is the series that inspired you the most since you were a child. How do you feel about the fact that you were drawing it yourself? And then Toyo kind of dunks on himself and says, "Oh, it's so obvious I'm so far behind him," sweating. Toriyama, "That's not true at all. I think of everyone who works on Dragon Ball, including the animators, your work is closest to my own." Toyo, "No way." Toriyama, "You are so good at composition. It's really cool. Right now, I don't think I could make such lively drawings. When I supervise other people's work, including anime and other media, I always find some part that I'm not happy with. When that happens, I definitely ask them to fix it. But when I see your name on it, I know I can be at ease. I can quickly just say, it's all good, and that helps me a lot." Toyo, "Oh wow, I'm always scared that Toriyama-sensei is getting more and more frustrated with me. He gives me the scripts for the series, so normally when I draw, I always have sensei's original manga next to me for reference." So he collects reference images and pays close attention to what it is he has to capture. "This is so that readers won't think, this isn't Dragon Ball." You might not understand why I'm in awe of this. I read Marvel and DC comics for the last year, and I spent way too much money on Marvel and DC comics. I'm so glad that I've gone to reviewing free library books. So part of the problem with Marvel and DC, generally, not the great creators, but generally the problem with them is lack of respect for the past. Toyotaru is so respectful of the readers of Dragon Ball Z. He is so concerned that the readers will just take one look at his manga and say, this isn't Dragon Ball, that he has to keep a reference library so he can successfully capture the feeling of Akira Toriyama's drawings. That is respect for the fans. That is respect for the consumers who make your industry possible. He has absorbed his respect for the people buying this manga into his very art style. So he continues, "But I also feel that I should try to expand my imagination and draw more things like my own original movements or various facial expressions and stuff like that." And Toriyama says, "I don't mind if you let loose, not at all." Toriyama's like a good sensei. He just respects the work. He kind of maybe there's like a sensei student relationship here where he's like correcting him, but Toriyama just seems to be encouraging Toyotaru to bring some of his own original energy into it. Like Toriyama doesn't come off as like a OCD person. And of course, like these interviews, how much can you tell about their working relationship from the interview? But I think Toriyama has the right, teacher attitude here of letting Toyotaru go and do his thing. Toyotaru has a very much. I can tell he bags on himself a lot. Like he's always like, "Oh, sweating. Oh, I can't believe it." He's just clearly in awe that he has this job. Toyo says, "Anything I need to fix or something else, I'd be really grateful if you were stricter about what I'm bad at." Sweat. So Toyotaru is eager for strict criticism of his art. So what's important about this is when you're a young artist, I feel like there's this period where you don't want to hear any criticism. It feels like they're attacking you, they're hurting your feelings, they're dumping on you. And my thought is, it's a little rude to critique someone who hasn't asked for critique. I learned this in art school. I'll share that story another day. But if you want to be a professional, critique changes. Critique becomes consumer feedback. Critique becomes, how do I get better at doing this thing? How do I make more money? How do I become more successful? How do I become like my teacher? So if you just want to like draw a few little pictures on the internet, yeah, whatever. Who cares about critique? But if you want to be a Toyotaru, critique becomes really important to you. And it's just really impressive to me that not only is he kind of like this neurotic guy who kind of bags on himself and is maybe like too humble, he's a little too modest, he's actively seeking strict critique. He wants Toriyama to tear him up if that's what it takes for him to get better. Boom, imitate that. What does Toriyama say? He laughs. "Nothing in particular. Seriously, there's nothing. Let me see. If I do have to say anything, I think you'll get even closer to perfection if you vary perspective more across a page's composition." I could even see some of that in this one of like, the up angles, the down angles is the exact same thing that is true in the Western comics market as well as the Japanese comics market. And Toriyama is just pushing him to get that dynamism. This is a boys comic. We want upside down angles. We want sideways angles. We want skew angles that are like 3/4, but then also at an angle upwards. All that stuff. All this stuff remains true across both industries. Other than that, if you can add your own originality, I would probably think this is amazing. Seriously, I'm that grateful for all your work. I finally get to see a successor who can create such a perfect continuation of my work. I'm just so happy for these guys, right? Like Toriyama's been doing this stuff since the 1980s. And now he's old and rich and retired, and you can let some young buck step up to the plate and try to continue it. I'm just so even though I'm not a Dragon Ball fan, I'm just so happy for these people that they get to make this work. Okay, a little bit more about Toriyama that we can glean from this. Lastly, can you tell us a bit about the upcoming story in Dragon Ball Super? Toriyama, I have this idea about the future of a certain person, and I'm thinking about combining it with this new universe. I'm going to make this story simple so that kids can enjoy it too. That's at least what I hope will happen. And then Toyo jokes, a certain person, that's something I'm interested in. I'm looking forward to it. So Toriyama, for all his foibles, he makes comics for little boys about guys with spiky hair beating each other up, with silly humor and pretty girls. All right, Toriyama gets it. He's figured out the magic formula to get stinking rich. And he loves it, and when he writes a continuation of his story, he thinks, okay, I'm going to make this so that even little kids, not just little boys, yeah, little boys generally love spiky dudes with muscles slamming each other, but there are probably some little girls who like spiky-haired dudes with big muscles flying into each other at rapid speeds. Toriyama loves it. He knows what he's good at. He keeps making it, and he keeps the kids in mind. This is an industry that loves its readers, that understands its readers, and works extra hard to make it easy to get on board and just get up to speed and just get into the, oh, they're fighting each other, oh, there's a big teddy bear, oh, there's monsters and aliens and they're fighting. This is a healthy industry, even if I don't like this particular franchise. There is so much health and vivaciousness to this industry. I love it. So, actually, I'm going to be donating this because I'm not a big Dragon Ball Z guy. I'm going to donate this. But I hope this goes, and maybe some kid will be weirded out by all the skipped scenes, but I hope that they are inspired, and I hope there is another generation of kids drawing horrible, muscly Dragon Ball Z figures, because the energy of this industry and this franchise is admirable, and the energy of these creators is admirable. 21 minutes, we got to call it there. I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. I love you guys. Support me on Subscribestar. Like, comment, subscribe to support this channel, and I will catch you later.